Step-by-step instructions to write a short story. For some essayists, the short story is the ideal medium. While composing a novel can be a Herculean assignment, pretty much anyone can create, and, in particular, finish, a short story. Like a novel, a great short story will excite and engage your peruser. With some conceptualizing, drafting, and cleaning, you can figure out how to compose an effective short story quickly. Section 1, Brainstorming Ideas, 8 Steps. Step 1. Think of a plot or situation. Consider what the story will be about and what will occur in the story. Think about what you are attempting to address or outline. Choose what your methodology or point on the story is going to be. For instance, you can begin with a straightforward plot like your primary character needs to manage awful news, or your fundamental character gets an undesirable visit from a companion or relative. You can likewise attempt a progressively confounded plot, similar to your primary character awakens in a parallel measurement, or your fundamental character finds another person's profound dim mystery. Step 2. Concentrate on a confounded fundamental character. Most short stories will concentrate on 1 to 2 principal characters and no more. Consider a fundamental character who has a reasonable want, or need, however, who is likewise brimming with logical inconsistencies. Don't just have a decent character or an awful character. Give your primary character fascinating traits and sentiments so they feel confounded and well-rounded. 2. Making characters that pop. Discovering inspiration, characters are surrounding you. Invest some energy people viewing in an open spot, similar to a shopping center or occupied person on foot road. Make notes about intriguing individuals you see and consider how you could fuse them into your story. You can likewise obtain qualities from individuals you know. Making a backstory, delve into your fundamental character's past encounters to make sense of what really matters to them. How was the forlorn elderly person as a youngster? Where did he get that scar on his hand? Regardless of whether you do exclude these subtleties in the story, realizing your character profoundly will assist them with sounding accurate. Characters make the plot. Create a character who makes your plot all the more fascinating and convoluted. For instance, if your character is a high school young lady who truly thinks about her family, you may anticipate that she should shield her sibling from school menaces. On the off chance that she loathes her sibling, however, and his companions with his domineering jerks, she's tangled such that makes your plot considerably all the more intriguing. Step 3. Make a focal clash for the principal character. Each great short story will have a focal clash, where the primary character needs to manage an issue or issue. Present a contention for your principal character right off the bat in your short story. Make your fundamental character's life troublesome or hard. 3. For instance, possibly your principal character has a longing or need that they experience serious difficulties satisfying. Or on the other hand, maybe your fundamental character is caught in an awful or hazardous circumstance and must make sense of how to remain alive. Step 4. Pick an intriguing setting. Another key component of a short story is the setting, or where the occasions of the story are occurring. You may adhere to one focal setting for the short story and add subtleties of the setting to scenes with your characters. Pick a setting that is fascinating to you, and that you can make intriguing for your reader. Tips on crafting a setting. Conceptualizing portrayals. Write the down names of your settings, for example, Little Settlement on Mars, or the secondary school baseball field. Visualize each spot as distinctively as you can and scribble down whatever subtleties come into your head. Put your characters down there and picture what they may do in this spot. Pondering your plot based on your characters and the bend of your plot. Where does your story need to happen? Make your setting a critical piece of your story, with the goal that your perusers couldn't envision it anyplace else. For instance, if your primary character is a man who gets into a fender bender, setting the story in a community in the winter makes a conceivable explanation behind the accident. Dark ice, in addition to an additional entanglement. Presently he's stranded in the harsh elements with a messed up vehicle. Try not to overburden the story. Utilizing such a large number of settings may befuddle your peruser or make it difficult for them to get into the story. Utilizing 1 to 2 settings is typically ideal for a short story. Step 5. Consider a specific subject. Many short stories focus on a subject and investigate it from the perspective of a storyteller or principal character. You may take an expansive topic like love, want, or misfortune, and consider it from the perspective of your primary character. You can likewise concentrate on an increasingly explicit topic like love between kin, want for kinship, or loss of a parent. Step 6. Plan an enthusiastic peak. Each great short story has a breaking minute where the fundamental character arrives at a passionate high point. The peak normally happens in the last 50% of the story or near the finish of the story. At the peak of the story, the fundamental character may feel overpowered, caught, urgent, or even out of control. For instance, you may have a passionate peak where your fundamental character, a desolate old man, needs to go up against his neighbor about his criminal behavior. Or on the other hand, you may have a passionate peak where the primary character, a youthful young lady, goes to bat for her sibling against school menaces. Step 7. Think about completion with wind or shock. Conceptualize a closure that will leave your peruser astounded, stunned, or captivated. Keep away from clear endings, where the peruser can figure the consummation before it occurs. Give your peruser an incorrect feeling that all is well with the world, where they think they know how the story is going to end, and afterward divert their regard for another character or a picture that leaves them stunned. Making a satisfying ending. Evaluate a couple of various endings. Framework a couple of various endings you could utilize. Envision every alternative and see which ones feel progressively normal, astounding, or satisfying. It's alright in the event that you don't locate the correct consummation immediately, it's probably the hardest piece of the story to compose. How would you need your perusers to feel when they finish? Your consummation is the keep-going impression you'll leave on your peruser. By what means will they feel if your characters succeed, fall flat, or land someplace in the center? For instance, if your primary character chooses to face her siblings' domineering jerks however gets frightened, at last, the perusers will leave feeling like regardless she has a great deal of soul looking to do. Avoid buzzwords. Ensure you keep away from contrivance endings, where you depend on recognizable plot turns to shock your peruser. In the event that your closure feels well-known or in any event, exhausting, challenge yourself to make it increasingly hard for your characters. Step 8. Peruse instances of short stories. Realize what makes a short story effective and drawing in for your peruser by taking a gander at models by talented scholars. Peruse short stories in a few kinds, from scholarly fiction to sci-fi to dream. Notice how the essayist uses character, subject, setting, and plot to incredible impact in their short story. You may peruse The Lady with the Dog by Anton Chekhov. Something I've Been Meaning to Tell You by Alice Munro. For Esme with Love and Squalor by J.D. Salinger. A Sound of Thunder by Ray Bradbury. Day Off, Apples by Neil Gaiman. Brokeback Mountain by Annie Proulx. Needs by Grace Paley. Apollo by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. This Is How You Lose Her by Junit Diaz. 7 by Edwidge Danticat. Section 2, Creating a First Draft, 6 Steps. Step 1. Make a plot diagram. Sort out your short story into a plot layout with 5 sections: article, an impelling episode, rising activity, a peak, falling activity, and goals. Utilize the layout as a kind of perspective guide as you compose the story to guarantee it has an unmistakable start, center, and end. 11. You can likewise attempt the snowflake strategy, where you have a 1-sentence outline, a 1-section rundown, a summary of the considerable number of characters in the story, and a spreadsheet of scenes. Step 2. Make a drawing in the opening. Your opening ought to have activity, struggle, or an irregular picture to get your peruser's consideration. Present the principal character and the setting to your peruser in the primary passage. Set your peruser up for the key subjects and thoughts in the story. For instance, an opening line like, "I was desolate that day," doesn't inform your peruser much regarding the storyteller and isn't abnormal or locks in. Rather, attempt an opening line like, "The day after my significant other left me, I rapped on the neighbor's entryway to approach on the off chance that she had any sugar for a cake I wasn't going to prepare." This line gives the peruser a past clash, the spouse leaving, and pressure in the present between the storyteller and the neighbor. Step 3. Stick to one point of view. A short story is generally told in the main individual perspective and remains with one point of view, as it were. This gives the short story a reasonable concentration and viewpoint. You can likewise have a go at composing the short story in a third individual perspective, however, this may make separation among you and your reader. A few stories are written in the second individual, where the storyteller utilizes you. This is generally possibly done if the subsequent individual is fundamental to the account, for example, in Ted Chiang's short story, Story of Your Life, or Junot Diaz's short story, This Is How You Lose Her. Most short stories are written in the past tense, however, you can utilize the current state on the off chance that you'd like to give the story more quickness. Step 4. Use discourse to uncover character and further the plot. The exchange in your short story ought to consistently be accomplishing more than each thing in turn. Ensure the discourse enlightens your peruser something concerning the character who is talking and adds to the general plot of the story. Incorporate discourse labels that uncover character and give scenes increasingly pressure or conflict. Snappy dialogue tips. Build up a voice for each character. Your characters are on the whole extraordinary, so the majority of their exchange will sound somewhat unique. Test to perceive what voice sounds directly for each character. For instance, one character may welcome a companion by saying, "Hello young lady, what's going on?" while another might state, "Where have you been? I haven't seen you in a long time." Utilize distinctive exchange labels, however not very many. Sprinkle illustrative discourse labels, as stammered or yelled, all through your story, however, don't make them overpowering. You can keep on utilizing said in certain circumstances, picking an increasingly enlightening label when the scene actually needs it. Step 5. Incorporate tangible insights regarding the setting. Consider how the setting feels, sounds, tastes, scents, and looks to your fundamental character. Depict your setting utilizing the faculties so it wakes up for your reader. For instance, you may portray your old secondary school as a mammoth modern-looking structure that scents of exercise center socks, hair splash, lost dreams, and chalk. Or you may depict the sky by your home as a clear sheet canvassed in thick dimness from rapidly spreading fires that popped in the close-by timberland in the early morning. Step 6. End with an acknowledgement or disclosure. The acknowledgement or disclosure doesn't need to major or self-evident. It tends to be unpretentious, where your characters are starting to change or see things in an unexpected way. You can end with a disclosure that feels open or a disclosure that feels settled and clear. You can likewise end on a fascinating picture or discourse that uncovers a character change or mood. For instance, you may end your story when your fundamental character chooses to turn in their neighbor, regardless of whether that implies losing them as a companion. Or on the other hand, you may end your story with the picture of your fundamental character helping her bloodied sibling walk home, in the nick of time for supper. Section 3. Polishing the draft, 4 steps. Step 1. Peruse the short story for all to hear. Tune into how each sentence sounds, especially the discourse. Notice if the story streams well from section to passage. Check for any cumbersome sentences or expressions and underline them so you can modify them later. Notice if your story pursues your plot diagram and that there is a reasonable clash for your fundamental character. Perusing the story out loud can likewise assist you with getting any spelling, sentence structure, or accentuation blunders. Step 2. Amend the short story for clearness and stream. With short stories, the general principle is that shorter is typically better. Most short stories are between 1,000 to 7,000 words or 1 to 10 pages in length. Be available to slicing scenes or expelling sentences to abbreviate and fix your story. Ensure you just incorporate subtleties or minutes that are significant to the story you are attempting to tell. Parts to delete. Superfluous depiction includes simply enough portrayal to show the perusers the most significant qualities of a spot, a character, or an item, while adding to the story's general tone. In the event that you need to clasp out an especially lovely portrayal, record it and spare it, you might have the option to use in another story. Scenes that don't push the plot ahead. If you figure a scene probably won't be important to the plot, give crossing it a shot and perusing the scenes when it. On the off chance that the story still streams well and bodes well, you can likely erase the scene. Characters that don't fill a need. You may have made a character to cause a story to appear to be sensible or to give your principal character somebody to converse with, yet on the off chance that that character isn't critical to the plot, they can likely be cut. Take a gander at a character's additional companions, for instance, or kin who don't have a lot of exchange. 3. Think of a fascinating title. Most editors and perusers will check the title of the story first to decide whether they need to keep perusing. Pick a title that will interest or intrigue your peruser and urge them to peruse the genuine story. Utilize a subject, picture, or character name from the story as the title. For instance, the title, Something I've Been Meaning to Tell You, by Alice Munro is a decent one since it is a statement from a character in the story and it tends to the peruser straightforwardly, where the I has something to impart to perusers. The title, Day Off, Glass by Neil Gaiman is additionally a decent one since it presents 3 items that are fascinating alone, yet significantly all the more intriguing when setting together in one story. Step 4. Allow others to peruse and evaluate the short story. Demonstrate the short story to companions, relatives, and friends at school. Inquire as to whether they discover the story sincerely moving and locks in. Be available to helpful analysis from others, as it will just fortify your story. You can likewise join a composing gathering and present your short story for a workshop. Or then again you may begin your own composing bunch with companions so you can all workshop each other's accounts. When you get input from others, you should then modify the short story again so it is at its best draft. For more information, click the link below. Thank you for watching this short clip. If you like, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit the bell. Bye for now and wishing you have a great day. See you again soon.